Hi, everyone.
Happy Friday.
Friday. Woo.
Hello, Emily.
Hello.
Just wanted you to know we are hearing you. Since there was dead silence.
That's all right. I can continue to vamp until somebody responds to me. So,
Hey, look, Josh is alive.
Just barely.
oh no, was that in question?
Well, look, it was all those chocolate chip cookies he ate over the week. So
Oh,
I was making
no.
sure he
Okay.
wasn't, needed.
Did I came home with a few last night and maybe had one more before bed. We had, those of you on the call, we had a leadership team meeting all week and good meetings. We also had a snack or two to keep us energized throughout the week.
The best meetings have snacks.
Gotcha.
Yes. He had to taste test all the cookies to make sure that, we were all going to survive the chocolate chip cookies. So
Josh, I'm really glad that you took one for the team there.
he did. He did.
I'm
He was
always
awesome
about
at
helping
it.
out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So does this mean you guys are going to send us all chocolate chip cookies? Is that what this is about?
Ooh, we should, if we could figure out a way to do that, we would provide cookies during our Comms Friday. I don't know how.
I would absolutely do that. Yes.
And I can say that safely because I don't know how I would get that done with people all across the region.
Yeah, I think there's like 142 people on this call, or at least that's the list I saw. So I don't think that's possible.
Yeah,
But
and they
good
live
idea.
in about 100 different towns. All right, well, it's late afternoon. Let's give one more minute. I got a good group turning up here, and then we will get going. Thanks for take some time on a Friday to join us here.
Everybody should link to Josh on LinkedIn. So we can expand our LinkedIn membership.
You can all link to me as well. I am also on LinkedIn.
And John, we did one of our first Comms Friday. We did was about social media, and we talked about connecting to us and connected to our region accounts and sharing and amplifying that reach. But today's conversation is all about media, and I think I'm gonna get it kicked off because it's a Friday and we don't want to keep anybody here longer than we need to be here, and everyone has other work they probably want to get done before the end of the week. So I'll kick us off. Thanks everyone for joining us. Some introductions for those of you that do not know. If you don't know us, my name is Josh Murray. I'm the Regional Communications Director for the Nebraska-Iowa region of the Red Cross. Emily Holly, who you have heard a little bit, you'll hear from her in just a minute or two. Again, she is the Regional Communications Manager. And together we're the staff. We're the communications staff of the Red Cross of Nebraska, Iowa. Now we do have several volunteers who help us out. I see some, I saw John already on the call. I know there's a couple others who are hopefully going to join us as well too. And we might even hear from a few of them later on in the call today. But today's topic is media. And like we've done with some of these others, we're not going to get like really in depth on everything on the media. We want to give you kind of a different view on some of it. So we got some different things we want to talk about. But then at the end, I'm going to tell you about an opportunity where we will dig in deeper on the media side of things. So just a couple things that we'll talk about today, kind of our agenda, what we'll go over, why media relationships matter. You're going to hear Emily say it in a little bit. I'm going to say it now. Media is our friend. Our media in our region, they respect us. We have good relationships with them. They want us to help them out. We want them to help us out. It's a win-win situation when we're working together. So I don't want anybody to be scared of media, worried about it. They're our friends. We're going to talk about that today. What's newsworthy? What is considered newsworthy? Not everything is worth a news release or social media post or something else. We're going to talk a little bit about what that is and kind of how we go about deciding what is newsworthy and what fits where. what do we do when a media shows up? Whether it's a blood drive, whether it's a shelter, it's a home fire call, it's a heroes event, it's a sounding alarm. What happens? What do we do if they show up? If Emily and I are there, a lot of people know I'm going to tell Emily and Josh, and they're going to take care of it. What if we're not there? What if our volunteers aren't there? What if someone else, executive director who might know, what if they're not there? What can we do? So we're going to give you some tips on that. And then we will give you some or interview tips. And again, not going to dig deep into those. We're going to do that at a later time, but going to give some overall tips. And really these tips aren't just for interviews. We will speak specifically for interviews, but also talks about talking in front of a big group. You may be giving a presentation. You may be leading a virtual call like this right now. Just some tips and some advice on that. So those things we're going to talk about today. We'll leave times definitely for questions at the end. If you have any questions while we're talking, raise your hand, put in the chat. Emily or I, whatever one is not speaking, we'll kind of watch the chat and help us kind of monitor that. But we'll also have some time at the end to do that. So I'm going to send it over to Emily to take us through the first part of our presentation.
Thanks, Josh. Hi, everybody. Again, it's so nice to see you all here. Thanks for joining us on Friday. As Josh said, we really hope that you all enjoy these Comms Friday presentations. I know we enjoy putting them together for you, so please don't hesitate to ask questions if you have them. You can put them in the chat. I don't know if Josh can see them because he's running the presentation, but I can see them. So we'll make sure we get your questions answered. So just a little overview about what we do is that we are very much led by storytelling. That's kind of our mission. We tell stories, we share information, and we engage with communities that really advocate for our brand and our mission. And we really lead with storytelling. We feel that telling a story instead of just, X number of volunteers went to this disaster. Okay, that's great, but what's the story behind that? Why did they go to the disaster? What are they doing at the disaster? A couple of sentences can really change whether or not something is newsworthy or whether or not something is a good story and compelling and engaging. So that's something that we want to do. And our mission, we always want to deliver the right messages to the right people at the right time in the right method. And in this day and age, I was just on a community mobilization call with Eastern Iowa. And in this day and age, the landscape of media is constantly changing. When I was growing up, we had a daily newspaper in my small town. We don't have that anymore. It's now a weekly newspaper. And so we are constantly navigating that changing environment and trying to figure out how can we make sure that our message is hitting the right people in a timely manner, using those right methods. And so we also are proactive, reactive, and interactive. That's a lot of TIVs, but we are all those things depending on the situation. So let's get into it. As Josh said, the media are our friends, and we try to emphasize that at every opportunity that we get. There's a lot of chatter going around, both on traditional media and on social media, that the media are bad, but they're not. They are our friends. We have kind of a symbiotic relationship. If you think about it, we have our volunteer partner, Peter Tian, will often say that a disaster didn't happen if the media doesn't cover it. And it's thought-provoking, and it's true in a lot of ways. If you think about it, we need the media to help get those stories out, and they need us. And the Nebraska-Iowa media, they trust us. Josh and I have a really good relationship with our media friends. We respect their roles and their deadlines, and that's why they come to us. We always give them the correct information. We're timely about it, and this is kind of one of the most important things. We respect their deadlines. They have a job to do, and we have a job to do, and so they really help us by advancing our mission. And they do that by telling our stories. That increases the visibility of the Red Cross in our communities. And it also really informs people on how to get help when they need it, because they might not know otherwise. Next slide, please. Okay, so something that we really wanted to cover in this presentation is what's newsworthy? And by newsworthy in this context, we mean, what are we going to send a press release out for, or a news release? What we try to do is we don't send out a release just to send a release. We want to make sure that we are ringing the media's bell when it's important, because we don't want to constantly be in their inbox so much so that they're like, oh my gosh, that Josh and Emily, why won't they just leave us alone? We don't want to be that. We don't want to be a thorn in their side. We want to have something to offer. And so we are very strategic about what news releases we send and when we send them. And so a few things here, part of a greater or timely trend. So that could be a disaster that's happened. That could be a first or a milestone. I went back through the releases that we sent during the month of August, and just a few. We sent several. I think we sent about 9 or 10 releases last month, but just a few kind of across all lines of service. We sent out a release to highlight the partnership with Peanuts that Biomed is currently running. We sent out a release to the Des Moines Metro Media to let people know that we were doing hands-only CPR at the Iowa State Fair. And we sent out a release at the beginning of this month to let folks know about National Preparedness Month, what that is, different preparedness tips. And so that kind of gives you an idea of what we will send a release for, but we want it to affect a large amount of people, and we want that information to be local and applicable. Next slide, please. Okay, what is not newsworthy? And I wanted to put this slide in both because it's important information, but also I found this graphic and I thought it was funny, and I really wanted to use it in the presentation. So I hope you appreciate that. But things that are not newsworthy are things that these are things that we're probably not going to send a release out for. This could mean, when you think about it, you want to think you're also media consumers, right? You are on social media, you're watching local news, you're reading a paper or a magazine. What piques your interest? Why do you care about something? And so that's often something that we'll ask ourselves before we send out a release. What's interesting about this? Why should people care? And so what we'll think about is, if one of our volunteers is going to a disaster, probably not something we're going to send a release out about. Excuse me. Or, if we have a booth at a festival, also probably not something we're going to send a release out about, or a blood drive that's just, reoccurring regularly. It's just kind of a space that folks can come donate blood. We will let media know at the beginning of the month, hey, these are blood drive opportunities in your area, but we're not necessarily going to promote a blood drive that just is happening. That being said, just because we don't send out a media release doesn't mean that we don't want to share that information. A lot of these things, if we have photos and context, we can utilize our social media to promote them. So just because we don't send out a news release doesn't mean that we're not going to do something to let people know or to promote what's going on. What we're asking all of you to do is to work with us in determining when we're going to use a news release and when we're not going to use a news release. And we'll work with you to help figure that out. Like I said, just because something isn't going to go in a news release doesn't mean it's not going to make for really great social media content. And just to highlight, we can't do anything about something that's already happened. So this is an area where we want you to keep us informed. Send us an email or a message and let us know what you're doing, so that we can stay ahead of it, either with a news release or with social media. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so now we're going to kind of get into the nitty gritty, which is part of why some of you are here, I think. Media at blood drives. So the first thing, if media show up at a blood drive, be welcoming. We want media to come to our blood drives, right? We want them to help promote these things. We want them to help tell our stories. However, if a reporter arrives at a blood drive, one, they can absolutely be there. And two, we want you to let us know. You can text me and Josh, let the biomed collection supervisor know. And just a few rules. Media are absolutely allowed to interview blood drive coordinators, blood donors, volunteers about their personal experiences. We always ask that media be courteous to our donors, and ask the permission before interviewing them. Some people aren't always comfortable at a blood drive, or some people aren't comfortable talking to the media. And at least in my experience, media has always been really good about that. We don't want them to interfere with a blood drive, and they know that. Something that they can't do is they are not allowed to record video or sound near those health history booths at blood drives. That's obviously private information, and they know they're not allowed to collect that, and we know they're not allowed to collect that. So always we ask that they kind of steer clear of that. We also ask that they not record needle sticks. My husband, for example, he can't watch that. A lot of people can't, and most reporters are aware of that. So we want to make sure that they're not recording that part. And we also ask that they not record the codes or the IDs, the ID numbers on the blood bags themselves. And media have always been really good about that. So those are just a few kind of high level things. And something I want to note, it's okay to ask a reporter. If a reporter comes to a blood drive and you're there and you're not really sure what to do, it's okay to ask them to just hang out for a second, so that you can get a hold of myself or Josh, and or your collection supervisor. It's okay to ask them to hang out for a minute. That's okay. They'll be fine with it, I promise. But yeah, call us, give us a heads up. What we'll often do is we'll often remind you that, hey, this is great. Take a deep breath, and we might give you something that you can tell them. We might give you a talking point or something to highlight, like, hey, yeah, people are here at this blood drive because of the current peanuts promotion. It's really cool because you get you don't know what t-shirt you're going to get, and there's 4 different designs, stuff like that. So we'll kind of help you out there.
Hey,
All
real
right,
quick,
next
Emily,
slide.
Emily, real quick, we have several of our biomed account managers and biomed team on the call. Anybody have any
Oh, yeah.
other advice? You've probably been there when media's shown up. Any thoughts, anything else or anything that's come up that we should also address while we're on this call?
This is Janet. I'm happy to say something.
Yes, please go, Janet. So Janet's one of our great volunteers, communications volunteers. So Janet, go right ahead.
So what do you think? I'm sorry, my back is killing me, so I took my photo off so I can walk around the room. Okay, so maybe even if a reporter is interviewing somebody, you ask the reporter if it's okay, and then you take a photo of the actual interview going on, especially if there's a television camera. And then you post it on your Facebook page or social media, and you thank them for coming. And you also acknowledge the outlet or whoever it is. And then, they're happy to have that kind of exposure. And so it gives you some extra, absolutely a little extra exposure. And then in addition to that, just to like about what you talked about earlier, Emily, you were talking about one volunteer deploying at a disaster is not a big deal. But in fact, maybe that employee, if it's a national disaster or something that's getting major news media attention, whoa, your local volunteer actually brings a local perspective to what might be a national story. And then maybe they'll take some photos for you. Maybe they'll send back some, that volunteer will send back information. Maybe it turns into a wonderful volunteer story later on. So I just thought I'd mention that.
That's good.
Yeah.
And Jen, I would say for that too, if it's one volunteer, a lot of times what we would do, find out where their hometown is, and we might just pitch it to their local hometown media.
Yes.
That's usually where the thing. So maybe we won't do a neat region-wide release, but that's where we look at the other ways we can use
Right. Yeah.
that
Good
story.
point. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and when and those of you who are disaster volunteers, if you're comfortable with this, if you're getting ready to deploy, give me or Josh a call or send us an email or a text, because we're always looking for volunteers who are willing to who are willing to talk to the media before they go, while they're on deployment, and after they get back, because that is the number one question that reporters ask us when volunteer when we respond to a disaster, either locally or nationally, they always want to talk to volunteers. And so if we know ahead of time, hey, so and so is from Des Moines and they have deployed down to Florida and this is what they're doing, they might want to come and they might want to talk to you right before you leave and ask you like, hey, what are you packing? Or how do you prepare for this? Or what are you going to be doing? It really helps us tell a story and it really helps get our message out there. And Janet's right. It's such a great angle for something like a national story like Hurricane Helene and Milton.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. No, that was great. Thanks, Janet. That's a great point. So next thing, media at shelters. The biggest thing to remember with media at shelters is that when we have clients staying in our shelters, that's their home. So we do want to be respectful of that. Media are, of course, allowed to come to shelters to help tell that story about the shelter and what the Red Cross is doing. However, we do have some caveats to that. We want to make sure that if a reporter arrives at a shelter, obviously, just same as a blood drive, you want to let the shelter supervisor know. You want to let me or Josh know, or both of us, in the event that one might be gone or one might answer faster. It's okay to let both of us know, and then Josh and I will kind of play baseball and be like, I got it. So we'll sort of decide who's gonna tackle that. But when a reporter shows up at a shelter, they do need to sign in. Kind of at that shelter welcome desk. We do not allow media to wander around a shelter unaccompanied. And that is, of course, because while we have clients staying there, that is their home. And so we do want to be respectful of that. And they can't record in a sleeping area. That's known as a private area. So what we will do for shelters, and shelter supervisors are aware of this as part of their training, just like it's part of our training. What we'll do is we'll have an area at a shelter where media can film, they can do a stand-up, they can do an interview. And when media show up, part of what volunteers will do and what we'll do is we'll let clients know that, hey, a reporter from KCRG is here. And just to let folks know in case they want to kind of be away from that or they don't want to be on camera for whatever reason. And another great opportunity is to work with shelter staff to identify residents for a possible interview. This is part of where Josh and I come in. Oftentimes when a shelter is open in our region, one of us will go, or one of our volunteers will go, like Janet, for example, to go and just kind of see how things are going and talk to people. And every so often we'll get a sense of somebody who maybe has a really great story who would be willing to talk to local media. This is a great opportunity. And I know that you disaster volunteers who are on the call here, we know that this is not your number one priority, but just kind of keep that in the back of your mind in case you meet somebody who has a good story. Let Josh and I know, talk to them about it, and that might be a story that we would want to feature both on our social media and with traditional media as well. So media can also always interview volunteers about their personal experiences. So you might think, oh, I'm not media trained, I can't speak on behalf of the Red Cross, but you can share your volunteer experience. And we want you to do that if you're comfortable. We all have Red Cross stories, and they're really great stories to tell. Why you're at the Red Cross, what's your volunteer experience like? How are things going at the shelter? You can talk from your perspective and your personal experience. Any questions with that one from anybody? Okay, before I kick it over to Josh, as I said, each of us has a Red Cross story, and this will get into our presentation in November, but as sort of a lead up, we're all Red Cross ambassadors. We all represent the Red Cross brand in one way or another, whether you're talking to media or whether you're talking to somebody at church or you're talking to somebody in the pickup line at school. And all of us should feel empowered to talk to the media when you're approached and share your story. And you can talk about what you do and what you know. And this is something where you can work with Josh and I. You know, if you talk to somebody, if you talk to media, give us a call afterwards, excuse me, and tell us who you talked to, you know, what station, because we always like to keep track of our media hits. And this is an opportunity as well where Josh or I can follow up with the news station and the reporter and make sure they have photos or B-roll or any additional information to really help them complete their story. And we'll often ask you how the interview went and how you feel about it, and you know, if there are anything that excuse me, that you would like us to follow up on. So there we go. I'm going to kick it over to Josh.
All right, and before I go to the next slide, if anybody thinks they might be interested in doing interviews and you want to practice sometime, let us know. We'd love to do practice interviews with you, help get you trained up. It seems scary. It seems scary to talk to media. I get it. It's not easy. But if once you do it a couple times, maybe like you'll get the hang of it. And we can get you even set up with doing a radio interview. I will tell, and Emily will, I think will agree, those are the easiest, because especially if you do like on the phone, you can have your notes right in front of you, and you're not on camera, the lights aren't on you. We can kind of get you some maybe easy into it too. So definitely love to have you consider doing that and to not be scared of doing interviews. It's just a conversation. We're going to talk about that now a little bit anyway, but it's basically just having a conversation. And we'd like to give more opportunities to share our stories. So as we talk kind of some interview tips and going through that, and I saw Jessica on the call, so shout out to Jessica because she's in this picture too. Jessica has done some interviews for us in Spanish. So it's an awesome opportunity that we have there, and she's really great at it. And appreciate all that she does to help promote what we all have going on and the work she's doing. But as when you're in an interview, we want to be telling a story. We're going to give the facts. We're going to give the information that needs to get out, but we're also going to kind of do it in a way that tells a story or include a story. So if we're at a blood drive and we're here to blood drive, here's dates, here's the time we're doing it, here's how many, units we've collected. And let me tell you about a donor who came in, he just gave his 20th gallon today, or this donor has been coming to this same drive for 25 years, share a little story that just kind of helps make it real. And that's also what media like. They love those sound bites like that. We want to detail the activities we have going on, but we also want to keep it simple. We're not going to dig too deep into it, especially if it's a recorded interview. They're going to talk to you from anywhere from 5 or 6 minutes to 15 minutes, and they're going to use about 30 or 40 seconds of what you say. So don't get too in depth. No, they're going to pick out the best soundbite that has the really overarching theme that'll go along with the story they're looking at. So think about that and make sure you're hitting the right points without getting too into the weeds on things. Listen to the reporter. Like I said, it's a conversation, especially in an interview that maybe it's a live interview or it's a radio interview that's live, and you're going to kind of go back and forth. The best interviews are the ones where you as the interviewee is listening to the reporter, but also the reporter is listening to you. So then it is a conversation. So you're answering their questions. You can definitely keep your talking points. We're going to talk about that too. Work your talking points that you want to get into it. But then a good reporter will be listening to your answers and ask you kind of a follow-up question. And then you've got a follow-up answer back. And then it's a conversation. Those are so much more meaningful. Really, that kind of helps maybe even tell a story that way, because it just flows right and it feels, it doesn't feel scripted. It doesn't feel like we're just reading our talking points to you. It's more of that conversation. We do want to consider giving a call to action. So what are we trying to do here? Are we trying to get more volunteers? Are we trying to give blood donors? Are we trying to do something else? Think about what you want to promote. Focus on one, sometimes maybe two, but really about one call to action you want to give and focus on that. And if you repeat it a couple times in an interview, that's fine. Repeat it a couple of times. We're looking for more volunteers. Here's how you can do it. Explain how you can do it too. You go to redcross.org to become a volunteer. You go to redcrossblood.org to find a blood drive in your area. Give them that information on how to do it to help them make it easy so they can follow through. As you prepare to speak, think of a couple things too. So especially, obviously, this is on camera. If you're going to be on camera, you're going to look for the brand yourself. You're going to have a logo on your shirt. You're going to stand in front of a logo. If you're at a blood drive and you've got something where maybe one of the donation chairs with the Red Cross logo is behind you, that'd be great. If you're at a shelter and there's a shelter sign that's back there, that's fine. Or you're outside by a Red Cross vehicle or the IRV, one of those. That's great. Just be mindful. We want the brand to be out there front and center. Remove hat and sunglasses, specifically sunglasses. I will say that every time. Now, if you working at a shelter, you're working outside and you wearing a hat all day and you take it off and your hat and you've got that hat head, John knows what I'm talking about. If you have that hat head, just giving me a hard time. I get it. You're not going to want to take that hat off, and maybe that's not the best look. But you can kind of push it up a little bit so that your eyes aren't blocked, the shade's not covering your face. Just be mindful of that. Think about that there. Looking presentable. Again, like it says, a stain on your clothes. Do you have an old T-shirt that's faded that doesn't look good? Do you have something else that just doesn't look right? Get yourself put together a little bit. Get your hair combed, check you don't have food in your teeth, common sense stuff like that, but just something to be thinking about. You want to be presentable, you want to look professional when you're on camera. And then again, pick those 2 or 3 talking points you want to make sure you get included in that. That includes probably your call to action, but also what other information do you want? Do you want to make sure people know why it's important to give blood right now? Or why we need more volunteers? What is that information that you can share? Have that in your back pocket ready to do and work that in to the interview. Almost any question they ask, you can work in your talking point. You might have to ease your way into it or kind of, roller coaster your way into it, but you can get that. Actually, we're going to talk about that in a few minutes too, some phrases that kind of help you get to your talking points. Speaking tips. Thinking about how you stand, how you sit, whether that is, you want to stand tall, shoulders back, look confident, stand still. Don't be swaying in an interview. If you're in a chair, I'm not going to swivel in my chair while I'm talking or lean back. You're standing tall, you're looking confident there. Listen to the questions. Again, you want to listen to what you're being asked. Have that conversation. So listen closely to what specifically the reporter is asking you. Remain calm, be collected. Very rarely are we going to get really tough questions. If they do start giving you tough questions, don't get nervous. Don't get combative for sure. Remain calm. Answer their questions in that calming voice, and speak at a normal pitch and a normal speed. I will say this, and I'll say it because I do it, and I maybe do it sometimes like on a call like this. I will start talking really fast when I'm doing something like that. Be mindful of that. Think about how fast are you talking? How slow are you talking? Are you talking loud? Are you talking quiet? Think about all that as you're in the interview. Speak at your normal pace, your normal voice, your normal level as you do that. Tell the truth. Never speculate. Be accurate. If you don't know, you don't know. It says here, it is okay to say, you know what, I don't have that answer. I'm not the one to answer it. Let me find it. They get you a Josh or Emily to answer it, or we'll find the right person to answer it. It's okay to say, I don't know, just offer to help them find that answer. Don't speculate. Don't say, oh, I think we probably have this many donors. I think we probably have this many people in the shelter. If you don't know, don't speculate.
Josh, I have something to add real quick, if
Yep.
that's okay.
Please.
So a couple of things. If during an interview, for the most part, you're not going to be doing a live interview necessarily. And so Josh and I, for example, we're not going to send you on a live interview unless you are really comfortable doing it. So for the most part, it is going to be recorded. And if you say something and you don't like the way you said it, it's okay to say, hey, can I say that again? Can I just kind of, can I rephrase that? They're going to be fine with that. I do it, Josh does it, and that's okay. And then the other thing that I was going to say is, oh my gosh, did I just lose what I was going to say? Josh, can you go back to the previous slide? Sorry. The other point that I was going to make is, excuse me, if you need to, a lot of times on a DAC call, for example, like a home fire, I've done interviews before where reporters will ask me questions that are not, like, that's not something we can answer. And that's okay. That's something where you say, you know what, I'm going to refer you to the fire department on that one. And that's okay. In fact, you should do that. Never speculate or assume something, especially on behalf of a partner or a different department. It's okay to refer them to that other department.
Yep, good.
Hey, could I add something to what Emily said?
Absolutely, please.
So Emily, you're completely correct that you can start over if you didn't like your answer. Where that can really be helpful is if you know you rambled a little bit. So the reporter will love it if you say, let me say that again, but in a shorter time frame. Because the reporter wants to keep your answers short because it helps their story. And so it's the same kind of deal. Repeat, say it again, but say it in a shorter time frame. And then one more thing, and that is that Josh, you were talking about get rid of the, ball caps and the sunglasses, especially if you are taking a still photo for some social media use. Always ask the guys to take off their ball caps, well, and women, and or sunglasses. And they aren't always happy about that, but that's, people want to see eyes. So I just wanted to add that. Thanks.
Nope, I think that's a good suggestion, both of you. Good suggestion, Jana, the faces. Faces are what makes a photo, makes a video, and if we're covering it up, that takes away from it. And I also like the tip about redoing it, and just what Janet said, I was gonna say the same thing, is reporters want that good soundbite. So if you didn't give them, if you blah for 2 minutes, then they're like, I got nothing I could use. So they will appreciate the opportunity to redo it.
Yeah, thanks.
And they're on a deadline. They want to, they want to turn this around fast. So the easier you make it on them, the better.
So we've talked about a couple things on this slide anyway already, but a few other things. No comment. Don't say no comment. That just looks like we're trying to hide something or whatever. If you don't know the answer, again, we've already said, I don't know that. I'm not the right person to answer it. Or I'm not aware of what's going on, but I can get you to the right person. No comment, no comment. That makes it look like we're hiding something. Off the record. Nothing's off the record. And my example, and some of you may have heard this before, my example is they may not, if I tell them something, I may say, yeah, things aren't going really well here at this. We probably won't do a blood drive here again. Off the record. We're probably not going to do it at this location, off the record. Okay, they might not go on and say, hey, Josh Murray told me that we're not doing here. But what they might do is they go over to somebody else. They go to Emily, or they go to one of our camp managers, or maybe we have an executive director. Hey, I heard you guys aren't going to do blood drive here. Is that true? And now they say, oh, well, I guess it's public. It's okay to say it because someone already told him. So now somebody says it. Yeah, it looks like we're going to probably go a different way next time. We're not going to do it here. Now they have it on the record. So now they got what they wanted. They got that quote on the record, someone who did say it on the record, but they used information that I gave them off the record to get that. So just be mindful that nothing is off the record and it can always be used in some other fashion. We talked about don't guess, don't bluff, don't lie, don't speculate. If you don't know, say you don't know. Don't assume something if you don't know. And don't criticize others, whether it's our partners, whether government agencies. Well, it's the local emergency managers aren't helping us out here. We're not getting. They're the ones who you actually need to talk to about whatever issue there's going on. We don't want to, talk about what we're doing. Focus on us. He goes, well, I can't tell you about that, but I can tell you what we're doing. You're going to have to ask those questions elsewhere. So again, sometimes when you get those questions, here's some phrases you can use. So someone says, hey, I heard, where's FEMA? How come FEMA's not doing it? What's the deal with that? I can't really address what FEMA's doing. What I can tell you is what we have going on. Here's what we're doing. We have a shelter. We have this many people. We're helping families get back on their feet after the recent floods, whatever it might be. We can talk about that. I can't speculate about that, but here's what I do know. If you don't know, there's something you can transition, kind of bridge your way to a different topic and focus on that. We absolutely understand the need for blank. So, hey, these people say they need X, Y, Z. Maybe it's something we can't offer. I understand the need. Here's what we're able to do to help. Here's what we're able to do to help these families, and explain that, circle it back to us and what we have to offer and how we can help the people that we are trying to help. And then when your interview is over, you're going to come back and let Emily and I know a couple things. How'd it go? Was it fine? No issues? Everything went just like we expected? Was there any surprise topics that they asked you about? Was there anything you didn't know that we do need to follow up on? let us know that information. Did they say, hey, okay, we're gonna air this tonight, or it's gonna be in the newspaper tomorrow, or it's gonna be in the Sunday paper, whatever. If they told you that, let us know that, so we can kind of keep an eye on that. We also know, as Emily said, maybe we're gonna send them some B-roll video or some photos. We know their timeline and how quickly do we need to get this out, like ASAP, or is this is going in Sunday's paper, so I got a day, I'll get this out this afternoon or whatever. We're usually trying to work pretty quick to get it to it, but it helps us to know that timeline. So keep us informed on kind of how the interview went, any outcomes from that. So those are our big media tips. Now I wanted to use this as a little time to kind of tease some things we have coming up. So we have a whole lot more about media tips. And when I say media tips, I shouldn't say media tips. We have a whole lot of tips on speaking about the Red Cross. And so on October 7th, 1 o'clock, we've scheduled for an hour and a half, may not go the full an hour and a half, but we block that off. And if you don't have it, let us know. We'll make sure you get the team's invite for that. We're going to go heavy into the spokesperson training. And so we will talk about doing interviews and being on camera, some of the stuff we talked about now, go a little deeper, but also just general stuff that you can use when you're speaking in front of a big group or you're speaking to a one-on-one meeting, but you're talking about the Red Cross. What's our terminology we should be using? What terminology do we stay away from? You know, avoiding acronyms, avoiding certain jargon. When I say, you know, our disaster teams after this disaster were focused on the mass care activities. Okay, a lot of us know what mass care activities are. Someone outside our organization, what is that? So we want to say specifically what mass care, sheltering, feeding, things like that. We want to, so we're going to go into kind of more in depth on that and those kind of tips. Again, and that can be used with media, but also in your day-to-day discussions with a partner. You're meeting one-on-one with someone, you just have to pitch something. Here's some information that might be useful in those conversations as well. So again, that's October 7th. November 21st will be our next Comms Friday. And that one, we're going to talk about elevator speeches. So many of you know what elevator speech is, many of you might not, but that is your 1 minute, minute and a half, maybe 2 minute spiel on if someone says, what do you do with the Red Cross? What's that all about? Here's what you're going to say. And we're going to go through what you should focus on, what you should try to fit into that short time. That way, when your neighbor says, oh, I heard you're a board member at the Red Cross. What's that all about? Tell me about that, what that's like. Or you're at the grocery store and you've got your Red Cross shirt on and someone stops, oh, it's a Red Cross. So what do? They collect blood, they go to flood. What do they do? You know, you're at an airport, you got a backpack. Someone stops you and asks you about something. You have something to say, you have that ready, you have that spiel. So we're going to go over that. It's useful. We think it's very useful and something that we want to spend some time visiting on and definitely get anybody else's thoughts on that as well. And then that's the last Comms Friday we have scheduled. We do want to keep doing these into the new year, just so you know. So Emily and I have already started talking. We're going to keep them going. We've got a good crowd again today, so appreciate everybody joining. But we haven't thought of any topics yet for those. Oh, I shouldn't say we haven't thought of anything. We haven't finalized anything. We've got stuff in our heads we've thought about. So if you have thoughts, you have ideas you want to hear about, discuss, let us know. So we can kind of put those on the calendar for the future. If you have other thoughts on, hey, Friday at noon doesn't work, or I'm assuming Friday at noon works for most of you because you're on the call. So we probably should be asking that to the folks who aren't on the call if Friday at noon's not the good time. But just keep giving us feedback on these and we will appreciate that. So I got
We
one more
really
thing I
would
want
love
to
to hear from all of you, you know,
Yeah.
especially those of you who've been regular attendees. What haven't we covered that you're interested in hearing more about, or that you know, maybe you want to do a deep dive further into something that we've already covered? Just let us know, because we really do enjoy doing these. I know Josh and I both get excited when we get to talk about what we do and present it to all of you. So we want it to be valuable. So we definitely want to hear from you.
I have a quick question.
Yes, please.
Are you planning, what's going on with smoke alarms? And you've talked about blood drives, a little bit about disasters, but what about smoke alarm news and activities around that?
So we do a lot of that throughout the year, and actually as we get into these next couple of months. So a lot of times we see home fires pick up in the winter. People are using heating devices, they're inside more than they're outside, so maybe they're cooking indoors more. So that's when we see a pickup on it. That's when we will start messaging that more. And that includes through social media, through media, through other avenues as well. And then we will push our smoke alarm and our sounding alarm. I will tell you that sounding alarm itself is changing a little bit as an organization, but we still do install smoke alarms on a regular basis, and we will still promote that really year round, heavily in the winter when the home fires kick up. And as we have home fires, then we usually follow that up with some home fire safety messaging and have you check your alarms around when we change clocks. See, it's fall back. So that'll come here in another month or so. We always kind of do that. Check your clocks and check your smoke alarm. Check your batteries from the smoke alarm. So you'll see that messaging around that time too.
And Fire Prevention Week is the first week of October. So we'll have a release that'll go out across the region, and depending on what we want to get out there, we'll probably follow that up with some pitches to some various reporters throughout the region that we have good relationships with.
Any questions from anyone? That's kind of the end of our formal presentation, but just wanted to open up to any questions or input. And Janet, thank you for sharing. Any other thoughts you have? Definitely, we have time for share thoughts. So open it up to the floor.
I'll just throw this out.
Yes.
So I don't know, Emily, if you and Josh are the ones that send out news releases. I'm thinking of Tammy in my area. And instead of even a polished news release, sometimes just some emails that say story idea. And that's especially if there's some action going on and you want to point that out. Not necessarily a blood drive, but maybe installing smoke alarm would be a good example. So it doesn't have to be always a polished news release. It can be just some bullet points that are quick and easy for a news reporter to understand.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, that's good. And we have kind of shifted our focus. I won't say shifted, added more media pitching to our activities. And Jana, you're aware of this from your background, but some media will get 100, 200 news releases a day, in their email. So what are we doing to stand out from that? What are we doing to separate it? So even if we do send a news release, often maybe a day or so later, we will follow up with a few outlets that we think might be interested in covering it do a special media pitch or a check-in. Emily and I both have relationships with different reporters, news producers, editors. Sometimes I'll just send a text. Hey, did you get the release yesterday? What else do you need, or do anything else? Here's the basics information that was included in that. So yeah, that's all kind of part of our media relations activities.
Thanks. Great.
Thank you, Janet. Appreciate all that you do to help us and part of our team.
Yeah.
We got a few minutes. Any questions? Anything else anyone wants to throw out there? Please.
Go away. Sorry, she's home. She's homesick. She really is sick. She doesn't seem sick, but she is.
John, hello again.
Hello, guys. One of the things I would like to say is, if you're ever interviewed by a reporter, or even generally in your life, I found networking to be really powerful. So I networked once with a reporter who was at the YMCA checking me in to go swimming, and she ended up doing a whole story about something I was doing, and I just happened to mention to her about it. So get used to talking about the Red Cross in your day-to-day communications with people. And if you ever do get interviewed, these things that we're doing to make the life of the reporter easier actually begin to create a relationship for you. So if you can create relationships with reporters, then they'll actually come to you as a source. And maybe don't exactly want to do that with Josh in this situation, but you want to develop a relationship so that they understand that you understand their life. and you're trying to make things easier for them. So the better you are as a source for the reporter, the more likely they'll want to cover stories for the Red Cross.
John, I'm so glad you brought that up because I want to throw this out. If you have other story ideas, it has nothing to do with the Red Cross, but you think a reporter might be interested, absolutely share that, because what that does is it reinforces that positive relationship and builds credibility. So you can be a source for other news if you know something that's going on, and visit with them about other news. So that ties in with what you're saying, John. Great.
Any other, we'll throw it out one more time, last call. Any other questions?
Or any ideas for future Comms Friday presentations. If you have something you're noodling about, please share.
All right.
I just wanted to tell you guys, I'm very impressed by the Red Cross's communication. So all of the posts that I get from the Red Cross on social media, I share a lot of that. And I think that's
Appreciate
something that
that.
all
Thank
of us
you.
can do. Yeah, it's something that all of us can do that's easy to do. So be sure to make sure that you're signed up to get those and then share them when you get them.
Awesome.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, that really does make a difference. It helps a lot.
All right. Well, we're kind of at our time anyway, so we'll wrap this up. But thank you all for taking time to join us. Please let us know how we can help anytime, or you have ideas for stories or anything to promote. Reach out to Emily and I. We're happy to help. But have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.